I think from our perspective, we see it more on, I think, the planning and measurement side of things. It's going to have an impact across the entire cycle, whether it's on activation, buying, but certainly when you think about with planning and measurement, some of the resources that are devoted to that, the limitations in terms of data science help and analytics, resources. I think AI being able to provide a way to scale more of those efforts and to, solve some of those pain points. We see that happening first. You could also argue it's starting to happen in things like creative as well. I think it's at different vantage points in different parts of the ecosystem, but it's happening all over the place. I think humans, for quite a long time, are going to have an impact in terms of where things go. But I think with anything that's rules-based, things that are repetition-based, I think AI can have an immediate impact, where somebody can go ahead, a human, put in their imprint of saying, this is how we want the workflow to take place, these are the rules, these are the methodologies, this is something, as let's say I'm a data analyst or a scientist, that I'm doing every day. Let AI do that, but again, following the rules and directives that person's put in place. I think the biggest challenge right now is not necessarily the tech of AI, it's the human factor within AI. So you have a number of folks, I'm not just talking about folks that need to get educated and understand its impact, that's not going to take their jobs away or displace them, but in terms of understanding that AI isn't just an automatic panacea. There's work that's involved in terms of customizing it, making it your own. It's not just put it out there and set it and forget it from that standpoint. It's the setup that you have to put in place. The other aspect of it is, and these are early days, is that I think we have to almost reimagine the way we're doing business. Like the workflows and playbooks that we've done for years on how we execute a media buy, how we're measuring a plan, campaign reporting. Maybe they work for humans, but maybe an AI, or an agent could do it in a different way. So I think, for humans to kind of reimagine the way that they're doing business, or not just them, but how AI and agentic can go ahead and, accomplish those tasks. In the previous world, it was like your data had to be perfect, pristine, clean, normalized. I don't care if you're a big enterprise or a small company, no one's data is in a perfect state. We also know in the ad tech ecosystem, data isn't necessarily centralized, even if you and your clients are operating in the same cloud, so it's in different places. The great thing about AI is that, certainly with agentics, they can approach the data as is. That said, I think it's really critical for both buy side and sell side to understand the context, the semantics around that data, how they're using that data. It's not just connecting it to a pipe and let it go. It's like, how do you want to approach it? The other thing that we're seeing, at least from our standpoint at Newton, is that it's also, how are you currently working not only with your own first-party data, but with your partners, with your third-party data relationships? What does that look like, both commercially and operationally? So certainly having that house in order as well, meaning, okay, great, I'm going to plug in things, through an agentic solution. What does that mean? How does that work from a business standpoint? What's required there? I think in terms, on the data foundation side, it's the semantic layer. It's the context, meaning, again, data doesn't have to be perfect, but what's the data dictionary around that data? How are you approaching that data? What are you focused on from that standpoint? Ideally, we're moving away from black boxes. It's both buy side and sell side. So certainly, to really make it work, it's, the sell side sharing their KPIs, sharing the decision making that went into that process and that performance, how they're leveraging their data, whether it's first party or third party, the methodologies involved. Sell side also needs to apply transparency as well in terms of what type of data, where did it come from. That's truly how we kind of make things work, and I think also on an overall basis, it's allowing people to have an understanding of just how did you here's not just the end point, but how did you arrive at that process. It's funny, I don't know if you can necessarily regulate or set up standards for trust. I mean, I think we're, there's things like AdCP and UCP that get into more standards. At the end of the day, I think to truly be effective, both sides have to be more open. And again, for the sell side to be able to go ahead and provide a proper offering, to address, let's say, a certain performance or metrics or goals of the buy side. And the buy side meaning, needing to share like, how are they judging? How are they evaluating what makes a buy effective? If they're being evasive or they're being blind on that front, then the sell side can only be so effective too. So it needs to be both sides working together, whether it's the humans on the behind or certainly on the agentic side as well. I think those that aren't embracing and kind of leaning in are not going to gain leverage. Those that are certainly doing the experimentation, the iteration now, testing it on different use cases, solving pain points that they're experiencing right now, but also thinking about things that they couldn't have done before. But for agentic AI, I think those are the folks that are really gonna have the leverage, because it's like, as much as we want to think about agentic AI for solving the things I'm doing right now, these pain points, reports, certain types of efforts, even activating a buy and it takes too much time. What are things that we haven't been able to do before as an industry? I think that's where folks, kind of taking it to the next level. You can think about things with the web or in the early days, it's the same thing. So I think we could look at those as lessons. The other thing I would just say is that, I think what we're going to see is that, people aren't going away, but I think there's going to be new opportunities for people to really help to manage these agentic offerings. Again, it's not, setting and forgetting, it's people managing the output, setting the parameters. I think you could see whole new roles coming up around managing these orchestration layers, managing these agents. It's in many ways we kind of see there won't be any more individual contributors. There's still going to be managers in their own right, but managing different agentic, AI, tasks and use cases.